Before I became a peak performance psychologist, I used to be a complex trauma specialist in Harley Street. And I used to work with dentists, doctors, lawyers, and billionaire super yacht owners, those kinds of characters. And I remember one day a client came in and to see me with PTSD. And I asked her what it was exactly she wanted to talk about. And she launched into this story about the day that she was on an aeroplane from New York to London. And she said this was a very harrowing experience because it was 9/11. Now obviously she was not on one of those aeroplanes that went into the towers, thank God. But she was in the air when those aeroplanes were going into the towers. And she told me that basically as she was on the aeroplane, it had only just taken off, or would very shortly after taking off, that the whole cabin went completely deathly quiet, pardon the pun. And she said that the cabin crew started to act really weird, and they would go up to the cockpit and then come back down, but quite pale faced. And then the captain came over the tannoy and said, I need to alert you guys to something that's happening. We don't know what's happening specifically, but all we do know is that planes are going into the towers right now. We're going to have to divert our flight today. Can you imagine how that felt? So she was on the aeroplane with all these people, and these people are screaming, crying, some probably blacked out and completely frozen and all of that kind of stuff. And she had to fly from New York to London still. Now what they had to do, they found out that they had to be diverted to Stansted Airport because, according to the cabin crew, there may be a bomb on board the plane, and if they fly to Stansted, there's less chance of collateral damage because there's less built-up area around the airport. So they kind of land into Stansted, and she says she sees all of the army around on the tarmac, waiting for them to arrive, and the bomb disposal units and stuff. So you can imagine she's probably shitting herself, or I was thinking she's probably shitting herself, and people are crying their eyes out as they had been for the past 7 odd hours or whatever, however long they were in the air, excuse me. So then they landed. She says we were on the tarmac for hours as the military were going around the plane, basically making sure there was no explosives on board the aeroplane. So again, pretty harrowing. And then she got off the plane and she said, and then I got to the tarmac and I was very happy. And I was like, shit, I can totally see why you're here today. She goes, oh no, that's not what's traumatized me. I just wanted to tell you something that happened in my life so that you can get a kind of an understanding of who I am and what I've been through. My life's been quite crazy and quite mad. And I was like, fucking hell, so that was not traumatic. She goes, no, that was the best day of my life, or one of them, because I was pregnant at the time, and after that my baby boy was born, and I thought how fortunate we both were to have survived such a crazy experience. That taught me something very important very early on in my career. There was a difference between post-traumatic stress and post-traumatic growth. You see, nothing has any meaning apart from the meaning you give it. So if you give something meaning that is bad and negative, you can be traumatized by it for anything up to the end of your life. But if you give meaning to something that could be bad, but you give it a positive meaning, it can be post-traumatic growth. So for her, the meaning she gave to it was, I'm a survivor. Now I'm imagining some of the other people on that aeroplane never got on an aeroplane ever again. Probably some of them became completely agoraphobic and never even left their homes, because the meaning they put onto their experience was, I'm on borrowed time, or I'm about to die, yeah? So be really careful about the meaning you give any experience in your life. If something bad happens to you, don't ask, why is all this shit always happening to me? Ask yourself this question: why is this happening for me? Find the positive meaning, take the positive learning. Until you take positive learnings out of traumatic experiences, they will remain traumatic because your brain will want to stop you from going into that experience again. When you take the learning, you can let the pain go, yeah? This is all unconscious, by the way, so you'll have to work with someone like me to get rid of that. But in the meantime, think about it, reframe it. Why is this happening for me? For her, it was to prove that she and her baby were survivors.